just a big. You got the whole screen. I'm just here on the side.
Wait, let
What's
me
the,
see.
what's that about?
All right. There we go. Is that better?
No, no, that's you right now. I see grid. How about a grid? There we are. All right,
There we go. The grid. There we go. We're on the grid.
we're on the grid.
Okay. I could see you. All right. Here we go. Welcome back to New Persuasive Words. I'm Scott Jones.
And I'm Bill Bohr.
And Bill, here we are. I want to tell you something you're probably aware of because you're a man that follows the trends and things, but American pride slips to a new low. So only 58% of Americans say they are extremely proud, 41%, or 17% very proud to be an American. This is down 9 percentage points from last year. And this number is independents hit a new low, but not as low as Democrats. And Republicans, of course, are 93% are proud. So there's a significant drop among Democrats, with 36% saying they're extremely or very proud, down from 62% a year ago, Bill. 62% just a year. What a difference, Bill, as they say, a year can make.
Right, right. Well, I certainly was not very proud last year. I'm not even sure I would say I was proud last year, but I'm not sure what the new I'm not even sure what to say. It's weird. That's a weird question. I mean,
It's asked every year by Gallup. It's
yeah,
asked,
no,
and
and I know it's a very American question, right?
and you know it's interesting, Bill. This is something I think is very interesting. I was thinking about today. Now, I remember Joe Biden said, "You can't just love the country when you win," right? And that was the whole sense
Yeah, I know.
that. But what's interesting is that is true for Democrats, not Republicans. Republican pride in the country fluctuates very little depending on who's in office. It's always above 90%. It doesn't really move.
Right,
Democrats fluctuate extremely with who's in office. So
right.
apparently, it is Democrats who are only loving the country or proud of the country when they win, even though that's what Biden sort of accused Republicans of. Republicans, and I guess independents are somewhere in the middle. They fluctuate, but not quite as much as Democrats do.
Yeah.
What does that tell you about anything? I don't know.
I don't know.
This is Gallup. It's just telling you what Gallup's reporting, Bill. I don't
know. Well, there we go. Yeah.
what am I? I don't. I haven't. I've read this. I listened to some podcast that mentioned it. I don't. I guess I'm proud. I think I'm proud to be of. Am I? What is the question again? Wait. Am I proud to be an American? Sure. I'm gonna say sure.
All right.
What do you think of that?
There we go.
I'm part of 36%.
You can wear your red, white, and blue shorts.
What is? Remember that scene from Newsroom where he gives that speech about America's the greatest country. What are we talking about? We're lowest in people that believe in evolution, highest in angels. What the hell are we talking about? Yosemite?
It's a good speech.
Yeah, that was a great. Great show,
and a lot of truth to that speech.
Oh, it's fantastic. Yeah. Well, Bill, we got a big, beautiful bill coming in. So fantastic. We're cutting the Medicare, the Medicaid, for the illegals.
Fantastic. And not only the illegals.
Yeah, no, if we're cutting, a lot of people are Medicaid. No, this is fascinating. You and I were talking about this earlier the other day. Trump won for the first time. People who were making less than 50,000 a year. Republicans have not traditionally, in my lifetime memory, won this group of voters. Trump won them, not overwhelmingly, but he won them. So thanks for voting for me. Screw you on your Medicaid, your food stamp.
Well, and this bill will help that number grow. That percentage of population will get bigger. Yeah. Or in terms of real earnings, because of just increased energy costs and things like that. Yeah. Now it's I mean it's actually you sent me something. It's a reversal of the triumph of the middle class, right? I mean, really, what was unique about the American experiment and part of it was the GI Bill, part of it was the post World War II thing. But
Post
even,
World War II, we created something, a burgeoning middle class
right,
that most societies in world history do not have. Like I mean, you could think of like the Renaissance, right?
right,
When the plague, and so the shortage of workers, where workers had some leverage
right.
in that. But in general, middle class is something that America really had, was outstanding in, and now we're killing it.
Well, we've been eroding it since the '80s. I mean, and so yeah. Well, that was a nice run.
Surprise! No one wrote a folk song with that title. Eroding the middle class since the '80s.
It could be on the new Springsteen album.
How many benefits?
Well, yeah, but you know what? But you still, I joked, but Allentown, Billy Joel's Allentown. This is our hometown. Springsteen. I mean, they were speaking about it. Those were all. I mean, Born in the USA, which was ridiculous. It was. Who was it? Who used that as a campaign song? Ronald Reagan. Born in the
USA, and Springsteen asked him not to do it.
Yeah, because it's actually opposite of what it was being used for.
It is a sad song.
It's a horrible,
with a very upbeat tune and
right,
dance.
Right. Yeah, it's like those upbeat song. When the song's really upbeat, it's about mass killing. Yeah, but at any rate, so yeah, that's. A tragedy.
Well, I mean, and it is. Yeah, it is. Yeah, I mean, so again, screw you to the people that help deliver you this election. A lot of white people making less than $50,000.
Yeah,
you are screwed.
By the way, too, I hope that Homeland Security gets on. Another example of the greatest threat to our public safety. Another white man with a gun caused tragic, killed first responders in Idaho. So I hope we're rounding up those white conservatives with guns, because they seem to be
Kristi Noem is on it. I'll tell you,
must be the most dangerous.
She has gotten worse looking. That was a good looking woman before, but back when she was shooting dogs, she looks much cuter than when she has this sort of fashionista authoritarian
the Botox
Eva Braun look.
Yeah. Well, anyway, you can only all things must pass away, as in the words of George Harrison. Democracy, America, her looks, all those things go away.
By the way, I just want to say for our viewers, those of you can't see us, they're listening to the podcast, but I am currently drinking a Coke Zero. Screw you, RFK. People died in 1776 so I could suck down this caffeinated beverage, and I'm going to do it right now.
There we go. Look at you. The resistance.
That's about as much as I resist.
That's.
I do that because I don't have to leave the home to do it.
That's right.
It was even delivered to me. I didn't even leave the home to buy it.
That's right. We're beyond the revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not leave its room.
No, I'll do anything to resist as long as I don't have to go out. Well, it's overcast today. Rainy, even rains.
Yeah.
I did go out actually, but so Bill, I'll read to you the opening sentence of Harry Frankfurt's wonderful book on bullshit.
Right.
One of the most salient features of our culture is that there is so much bullshit. Well, I'll continue a couple more sentences. Everyone knows this. Each of us contributes his share, but we tend to take the situation for granted. Most people are rather confident of their ability to recognize bullshit and to avoid being taken in by it. So the phenomena has not aroused much deliberate concern, nor attracted much sustained inquiry. And Harry Frankfurt, in a long essay, which then became a book, very short book, you could read it in an afternoon. Anybody, our listeners, it's very, very easy read. He attempted to redress this problem. And Bill, I wanted to talk about this because when Trump came out the day after the Iran bombing, and just said, we completely obliterated the entire nuclear program, okay? that was an example to me of what Frankfurt
Right,
points to
right.
in this big bullshit. Because I don't think Trump knew whether it was true or false. I don't think there was any concern for reference to an actual real world state of affairs when he was making that statement. It was bullshit, right?
Right.
Which because and I don't think he knew. And part of the reason it's bullshit is I don't think he knew whether it was true or cared.
Yeah, I
And
don't think it
this
mattered
bill
to him.
is the problem.
Yeah, it is. Right. I think in his own mind, he solved it by sending the bombers. I think in his mind, I've spoken it into being, right? And that's if I say it, that's all that matters, right?
Well,
Because
it's Ezra Klein had on a Middle East expert last week. He was saying that his take on this was that Trump he just saw how good Bibi looked and he wanted in on the action.
well, right, and what it does, it also gives cover. That I mean, the Iranians are now. It gives them open season on anybody they want to. They're hanging dissents. Um, the IDF is still killing people in line for food. The IDF looks the other way. Why settlers burn stuff in the West Bank. So basically, it gives everybody cover. It gives the Iranians cover. It gives Bibi cover. It gives Trump cover. So that
Can you drink Coke Zero in Iran?
I don't. I've not been to Iran. I don't know. Probably Coke's everywhere. I imagine. I imagine Coke finds a way to get around the. Or unless they've created their own like Coke, right? I don't know. I don't know.
Yes, Bill. Coca-Cola Zero is available in Iran despite some restrictions on Coca-Cola products. So, Bill, wouldn't it be funny if and ironic if there was more freedom to consume this beautiful liquid in Iran than in the new regime under
It
RFK?
could be possible. I tell you, Coke. Talk about being ubiquitous. This has probably been 20 years ago. I was doing a medical mission in Guatemala, and the village we were at. Actually, we had to have English translated to Spanish, Spanish translated to a Mayan dialect to do anything. Spanish was their second language if we were lucky. And while we were there, suddenly a van drives through the little village with a loudspeaker selling Coke in the Mayan dialect. So they are your heroes were there doing the good work of Coca-Cola.
Well, it's a wonderful product that I very strongly support because I drink Coke Zero all the time. It tastes. It's one of the things. It tastes so much like regular Coke. It's amazing.
It does. I would agree with that.
I'm
Yeah.
sure it's carcinogenic and it's going to shorten my life, but you know what? You got to die of something.
Right.
This is, and given the state of the republic, who knows what it could be.
By the way, I just here's my speaking of dying. I went for an annual checkup today, and so they wanted to do some blood work and say we'll send you your results. So they sent me my results, but they just sent me the chemical formulas. So there's a sense where
what would you do with that?
Well, I had to look up. So a couple of things were where they weren't supposed to be. So I had to figure out what was going on. You got normal. You look, normal. I don't know what it is I'm looking at, but normal feels good. And then suddenly you get elevated, and I don't know what that is either. So I mean, literally, it was abbreviations and percentages. So I may have mono, which is ridiculous, but that's unless I'm reading that wrong.
See, I tell you to slow down all the time.
You do, but it's
going to be this report, when translated, is going to be the vindication and validation of all my advice to you.
For those of you who fortunately do not have to listen to Scott and I talk privately, Scott is always telling me I do too much, and he wants me to do less.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So anyway, but no, I think I think it's. And by the way, remind our listeners, if you don't know offhand, that this essay is what 20 years old.
Yeah. It was.
It's gotten worse. Yeah, right. It's even more so, right?
Yeah, it's interesting because he, in the beginning of the book, he considers an essay that was written in, I don't know when this was written, but the prevalence of humbug by Max Black.
Oh,
This
right,
it was 1985. It says, but
right, right.
that seems late to me. But I suppose it's not. But Black suggests a number of synonyms for humbug, including the
Right.
following: balderdash, claptrap, hokum, drivel, buncombe, imposture, and quackery. But he offers the following.
By the way, I feel like I'm at tea with Tolkien, Sayers, and Charles Williams right now. But keep going. Quackery. It's quackery.
Quackery. He said humbug, though and because Frankfurt thinks that there's a relationship between these things, a little different, but he says this is what I'm getting at. Humbug is, according to Black, deceptive misrepresentation short of lying, especially by pretentious word or deed of somebody's own thoughts, feelings, or attitudes. And it's interesting to note, short of lying, right? And that is what Frankfurt is very big on, the fact that this is a real. There's a real difference between a liar and a bullshitter, and the main difference is in intent and deception. Both people who are lying and people who are telling the truth are focused on the truth. Now, the liar wants to steer you away from the truth, so has to know the truth,
right,
to cover it up. So they're attempting to deceive, and so both the one who wants to tell you the truth and the one that wants to lie need to know what the truth is in order to present it, or to obfuscate, or to cover it. Bullshitters are different in that they are not, unlike the liar or the truth teller, they have no concern for the truth.
right.
They're just their locutionary acts just serve their own ends, and so they're not really. They might say something true.
Right.
For instance, Trump in that statement, it needn't be false that we obliterated
Right.
the thing, nor need it be true, right? I mean,
Right.
it's just he's just saying it for affect. He's just saying, like, what I did was fantastic. It was great. It's big and beautiful, and we love that. I mean, it's just it's just sentiment. It's just trying to say we're number one. I'm great. We did this great thing, just like I'm a big man like Bibi. Okay, Bibi and I. So that's all that's about, right? So it's not at all in service of a real world thing out there that you're either trying to elucidate or cover up, which is why, and this is just, I think, probably the controversial thesis of the essay in the book, is that he thinks bullshitting is actually a greater threat to the truth than lying.
Right. Because it does a number of things, right? First of all, because whether or not it makes a conscious or unconscious choice, that the truth doesn't matter. So and so that's, in other words, the goal may be persuasion, the goal may be deception, but there's a sense where for the person doesn't think it matters that the truth be told, or that the truth be, the truth be thwarted, right? Truth doesn't even matter.
In Frankfurt's words, it's on page 55, it is impossible for someone to lie unless he thinks he knows the truth. Producing bullshit requires no such conviction. A person who lies is thereby responding to the truth, and he is to that extent respectful of it. When an honest man speaks, he says only what he believes to be true, and for the liar, it is correspondingly indispensable that he considers his statements to be false. For the bullshitter, however, all these bets are off. He is neither on the side of the true nor on the side of the false. His eye is not on the facts at all, as the eyes of the honest man and of the liar are, except insofar as they may be pertinent to his interest in getting away with what he says. He does not care whether the things he says describe reality correctly. He just picks them out or makes them up to suit his purpose.
Right.
Now who does that sound like?
Yeah, I mean, that's a piece of poster child for it, right?
Yeah, and that is where it's actually this is the kind of people talk about anti-realism, right? And that people are that is truth dead and are all our is all our communication just language games and stuff like this. But this is the danger for Frankfurt, right? That bullshit when there's so much bullshit and we're all doing it so much because he thinks one of the things he says one of the reasons there's so much bullshit is that all of us feel like we've got to have an opinion on everything,
Right. Right.
and we've got to who else? And look, I mean, who is more in danger of this than you and I because we talk so much publicly, right?
Right.
All the time.
I'm thinking, yeah, I'm thinking about how dangerous it is, like in preaching, right? I mean that would be a good book. The homiletics of bullshit.
Bullshit.
I mean, because I mean,
you don't have to go very far in this country on a Sunday morning.
Well, right, but even and I've seen it on all sides of the political spectrum. I remember sitting in a preaching class, and they'll remain nameless, and it was very eloquent and moving. And the person next to me said, "Wow, this is amazing," and I said, "Yeah, what is he saying?"
Yeah, who cares?
Well, but right, I mean, there's a sense where it was. I mean, that even goes back to, people just loved hearing George Whitefield say Mesopotamia.
Yeah, that Ben Franklin. Yeah.
Right, but George Whitefield actually was a Oxford educated revivalist with a theological foundation, so
and a theater background.
Yeah, no, and so a man of convictions who very much cared about the truth. But no, I think it's it's right. We all are talking heads, right? Whether influencers or everyone has, when you and I started podcasting, everyone didn't have a podcast.
No,
but they do now, right?
Everyone does. No, everyone does. Yeah, everyone. And a TikTok, and it's very interesting because Mamdani, I'm saying that right, Mamdani.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, the who just won the primary, the Democratic mayoral primary, seemingly, a self-confessed socialist. Critics would say a Marxist, who's no fan of the Jews, not getting a lot of Seder invitations.
Although what percentage of the Jewish vote did he carry?
That's a good question. I don't know.
He carried a lot of young Jewish vote. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of
progressive.
Yeah. But one of the things that Ezra Klein and Chris Hayes were talking about, and they did a episode on Ezra Klein's show about that victory and vertical video, right? Which is the format which you see on TikTok or Instagram, not the wide angle YouTube, but the vertical video shot by the phone. And they're like, this guy is just, he's got the vertical. So that's not even video. It's vertical. It's a very specific type of medium, right? That TikTok. I mean, the guy did a TikTok campaign, basically.
Right. And worked hard.
Yeah.
And the Democrats can't get over the fact. I mean, Como, Clinton, Biden. Is there any kind of trend here, boys and girls?
With a boatload of money. It's just a boatload of money in traditional media doesn't always win. But it's interesting. You think about, so they were talking about, is this in the attention economy? Are these the kind of candidates you want to run, right? People that are good at things like vertical video and things like that. And I'm just thinking, and that's probably true, right? I mean,
right.
I'm already thinking, oh my gosh, I should make more vertical videos. Whatever. I think, but what would contribute to more bullshit than the first thing? Well, how are you with vertical video? Is what makes a strong candidate? Like, what's your vertical video presence like on TikTok? I mean, you are just getting a prescription for a mountain of bullshit.
All right. Well, it's just the Facebook phenomena. I mean, look how Facebook was hijacked in 2016, and where you got. Well, you really had purposeful falsehood though there, right? It was, so you had bullshit and falsehood going on, with bad actors. You had both bad actors and political operatives, doing both, like both bullshit and lying. And I don't know. There's part of me. what's the difference? So here's an interesting. What's the relationship between bullshit and rhetoric? Because is it partially like you go through some of the classical rhetorical devices actually are truth distorting, right?
Yeah, but whether or not, rhetoric could serve the truth, or it could serve a lie. But if it's just if it's in service of neither, then it could be bullshit.
Yeah, but I'm saying, but I would say that some of the classical rhetorical tools are most operative when used for bullshit.
Yeah, of course, that's probably a fair statement.
Yeah, I think in terms of so this was something. It's not a new invention. Matter of fact, so I guess the Greeks and Romans. It sounds better if you have a Latin phrase describing it, but it's still the same, right?
So here's a little more from Frankfurt that will help guide our journey. I love this book. This is such a sentences are so fantastic. Bullshit is unavoidable whenever circumstances require someone to talk without knowing what he's talking about. Thus, the production of bullshit is stimulated whenever a person's obligations or opportunities to speak about some topic exceed his knowledge of the facts that are relevant to that topic. This discrepancy is common in public life, where people are frequently impelled, whether by their own propensities or by the demands of others, to speak extensively about matters of which they are to some degree ignorant. Closely related instances arise from the widespread conviction that it is the responsibility of a citizen in a democracy to have opinions about everything, or at least everything that pertains to the conduct of his country's affairs. The lack of any significant connection between a person's opinions and his apprehension of reality will be even more severe. Needless to say, for someone who believes it is his responsibility as a conscientious moral agent to evaluate events and conditions in all parts of the world. So basically, everybody that wants to pronounce and have opinions on everything. And again, I indict you. You and I are two of these people that like to pronounce on things. You inevitably, we inevitably wind up talking out of our depth. And this is just the nature of reality. And so it's just the propensity, when everybody has a microphone, when everybody has the TikTok video, when everybody has a Substack, when everybody has all these means of communication, you inevitably, I think of one of the primary examples of bullshit I can think of in my life politically was when Obama was explaining Obamacare, and he said, of course, you can keep your doctor. If you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. He had no idea. He probably hadn't read. I'm sure he hadn't read the bill, and I'm sure he had no idea how it worked. About if you're happy with your doctor, just no idea at all. And but it was in service of making people feel good about a healthcare. Well, I think was better for the country.
Right. That's a rhetoric. But you can see the slippery slope, right? You can say, well, that was a justified use of bullshit, but it's still
right.
But it's still bullshit.
It's complete, but it had no. And again, in the precise sense, I don't think Obama had any idea. I don't think he was lying.
Well, I would be surprised. He was a pretty thorough guy, but I do agree with you that was one of those rhetorical bullshit moments. One thing I do want to give ourselves a little. The origin story for this podcast was you and I talked because we were trying to understand. Remember, our sub is hope seeking understanding. Right. And so I do think, we have fun with it, and but there's a most of the time there's a reason for this journey. Now, and it doesn't mean what we're saying is right. It doesn't mean we know what we're talking about, but we're trying to figure out what we think. We're trying to figure out what's going on. It's interesting. The people I've talked to some the other day who found this, who finds this podcast helpful, and actually quoted us. We were talking about something. He quoted us to me, which was very terrifying.
Did you tell them go directly to therapy? Do not pass go. Do not collect $200.
But we were talking. He and I were talking about some sort of social phenomenon or political thing, and I was saying we were having this back and forth about trying to understand it. He goes, well, this is what you guys the other day in your podcast were talking about this. And so for me, that what he and I were doing is just part of the extension of what we're trying to do here. So there's a sense when you're talking, when you're trying to talk, you're going to get things, you're going to get things wrong.
Sure.
But it's different than the pronouncements, or difference where because I said it, it matters. It's true. Yeah. One other thing, I keep hearing.
And this is why the Trump thing stood out to me. The statement about the Iran, the obliteration of their, because this is just bullshit in the sense of we don't know. It might be true, right? It could be, and I'm sure that the program was set back, and I think that's the good thing. And we could talk about the cost benefit of that regarding what potential retaliation could involve and what it. But I mean, but all this, but just this statement, I'm like, how could you? This is just so in the face of what seemingly are the facts on the ground, or the fact when Rumsfeld used to say, there's the known unknowns, and it's the unknown unknowns that get you.
Well, right? I would say that it's uneven, but I think particularly the lessons of Vietnam were that
never get in a land war in Asia,
but that there was a sense of the American public deserves. We understand we can't know everything, but when our government officials speak, then the American public is owed honesty, and I think this is more than a reversal to the pre-Vietnam kind of feeling that no, the American people don't need to know what's really going on. One of the things I say bullshit. One of my favorite bullshit. I keep, and while we're talking about this, the trial scene from Animal House.
And by indicting the fraternity system, you're indicting the whole American educational system.
Right.
I'm not. You can denounce us, but I'm not going to sit here and listen to you badmouth the United States of America.
But I would argue that if you want to study the anatomy of current discourse, political discourse in America, there's no better place to start than that speech in Animal House, because I would say whether you're talking about our current Secretary of Defense, whether you're talking about lovely Lindsay, or whether you're talking about the President, Secretary of State, he's now the aliens got him as well.
Yeah, he took the red
pill. Or the our national security person, the excuse of a human being that is the press secretary. All these people together have. The trouble is, Animal House was funny.
Yeah. It was otter.
That was otter. That was funny, and no human lives were at stake. Well, I guess there might have been a few. The guy, guess what? Well, Kevin Bacon got ran over, but Kevin Bacon was lost in the parade.
All is well. All is well. I'm gonna watch that movie soon.
Well, so welcome to the intellectual world of Animal House.
Yeah, but the conclusion of this book, which I had forgotten the last paragraph, which I reread, and I found myself arrested. I was like, wow, this is really deep. He says one response from this loss of confidence. He's saying the loss of confidence in reality, right? With anti-realism. So we can't really know objective reality, the sort of ultimate forms of postmodern relativism, skepticism. He said one response to this loss of confidence has been a retreat from the discipline required by dedication to the ideal of correctness to quite a different sort of discipline, which is imposed by pursuit of an alternative ideal of sincerity. He talks about that a little bit. And then he says, this is the last paragraph of the book. But it is preposterous to imagine that we ourselves are determinate and hence susceptible both to correct and to incorrect descriptions, while supposing that the ascription of determinacy to anything else has been exposed as a mistake. As conscious beings, we exist only in response to other things, and we cannot know ourselves at all without knowing them. Moreover, there is nothing in theory, and certainly nothing in experience, to support the extraordinary judgment that it is the truth about himself that is the easiest for a person to know. Facts about ourselves are not peculiarly solid and resistant to skeptical dissolution. Our natures are indeed elusively insubstantial, notoriously less stable and less inherent than the natures of other things. And insofar as this is the case, sincerity itself is bullshit.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of truth to that. Yeah.
That is so like this idea, because everybody thinks like, well, I know myself. I know what I think. I know what I feel. I know those are in Frankfurt's mind. Those are some of the most bullshit like statements, in that we are such a mystery to ourselves, right?
Right.
And this confidence by which we all proclaim that we know ourselves and all this stuff. So that is the idea that sincerity is the highest virtue and is some sort of shelter in the storm when you embrace anti-realism and skepticism about the truth. But at least, you, to above all, to thine own self be true. Frankfurt thinks that is an existential, and maybe as a correlate, spiritual cul-de-sac, which I found challenging.
Yeah, it's challenging. I think maybe the most important skepticism that we can have for our souls is to be skeptical of ourselves.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Well, I don't think that's bullshit.
Absolutely not. Well, Bill, this has been enlightening.
Yes.
And fun. It's so.
Thank you for waking me from my whatever I was, my
dogmatic slumber.
Dogmatic slumber. All right, everybody, be well. Peace.
And the beat goes on.
Beat goes on.